So you realize that pay as you earn has increased by almost 10%. Digital Services Act has brought up more taxes on the digital services. We have now the Finance Act that has brought up taxes with regards to loans, with regards to data and airtime. So if you've been watching news lately, you know what's been happening in Kenya. Life standards are going much higher. It's becoming more and more difficult since last year with the COVID situation that brought about so many things, not only on the individual level, but also on the national level. So life is getting really expensive in Kenya. Cost of living is expected to rise even higher and higher. Inflation rate is at all-time high. When I say inflation rate, basically I mean the purchasing power of the Kenyan shillings, the purchasing power of the currency. What can you buy with whatever you have? So there are so many things making life quite expensive. One of them is inflation. The other one, of course, is taxes. So taxes have been rising. If you are in Kenya and you've been watching the news, you know the president just signed a bill recently on the 29th of June. This will increase the expenses with regards to airtime, SMS, calling, and data. This will also increase excess duty on loans. So if you are going to have any kind of loan, you're going to pay much higher. So taxes are increasing in terms of bank loans, in terms of airtime, in terms of living standards, just the normal ones, like the gas prices have been going high. So many things are going to affect people's lives in Kenya right now. And when there is a rise in living standards, people have to adjust financially so that everything is set for you. Your personal finances must be adjusted with the rising living standards. So like I've mentioned, things are changing. You have to change with times. You have to ensure that you are on track with regards to your finances too. Don't just remain at the same level you are, the same lifestyle that you are, as everything is changing. You have to adjust and make sure that everything is matching the current inflation rate, the current cost of living, and everything else, so that you can remain on track with regards to your wealth building and financial freedom journey that we are all going on. This is something that everyone needs to take into consideration before you start planning your finances. Always think of the inflation rates, always think of the cost of living in the country, always think of all these things. Even just this morning when I woke up, there was news about university revising its fees for some of the best courses by almost 100%. 100%. It's crazy, guys, I tell you. It's crazy. So you have to adjust. You have to plan your finances. So I'm going to give you tips that you can follow to survive the cost of living that's rising in Kenya like crazy. These tips are very simple, straightforward, but you just have to be disciplined with them. So the first one is one thing that people usually hate to do, but it's budgeting. You have to budget. Budgeting will help you spot certain loopholes in your financial life so that you are able to adjust accordingly. There's no way you're going to adjust accordingly if you don't budget. You have to know where your money is going. You have to know the inflow, you have to know the outflow. You have to understand your finances. Without a budget, you don't understand your finances. Without a budget, I always say, it's like you are driving without any direction, without any destination, without knowing what your goal is. You're just driving into the general direction of nowhere. So with a budget, you get to know what direction are you going to, how is your money coming in, how is your money going out, are you saving any money, are you planning for any financial goals in the near future or in the long term. So a budget is basically something just a structure to guide you. You don't have to go crazy with it and start accounting for every shilling. You need a simple structure. Make it very simple, make it very straightforward, and let it guide you on how much do you get into the system or into your house and how much actually goes out. So it's a very simple system that if you follow, you don't have to check it every single time, because then with time you will have known what comes in and what goes out. So budgeting, whichever way you look at it, it doesn't have to be strenuous, it doesn't have to be boring, it just has to be something very simple, but it will give you an understanding of your finances. So number one step that you have to take to curb the rising cost of living and to understand your finances well is to budget. When you budget well, you will now know what to adjust so that you can remain afloat with the rising cost of living in the country. That's the only way we can even move forward into other steps. If you know about your money, if you understand your money, if you understand your financial life, we cannot move on to the other steps if you don't understand where you are at the moment. You must know where you're standing. You must know your current situation. You must know your current circumstances for you to understand where you want to go to financially and what to adjust and what not to adjust. The second thing after budgeting is basically reducing the amount of money you spend on the things you don't need. I always say this all the time. We spend a lot of money on things we actually do not need in our lives. So you could be someone who is not interested, for example, in football, but you're always spending money paying for DSTV or paying for Sports 5, paying for, all those channels that shows you sports. Sometimes you're not even interested in that. So you can cut that off. When you budget, you get to understand the things that actually impact your lives. So if you're someone who likes outdoor stuff, like you like adventure, you like hiking, you like doing other things, cut down on TV expenses and you can increase your adventure expenses. It's a very simple process. Cutting down on the things that are not so much of interest to you, there are things that you don't enjoy as much, and putting that extra money somewhere else will always help you. Cut down on the things you don't need in your life. You either doing them to please someone, or you're doing them just because people are doing them, or doing them because you have always done them. So you want to continue the culture of doing the same things. But sometimes you realize there are things you have been doing for a long time, but you actually don't need them in real sense. We spend a lot of money on things we actually don't need. So you analyze your life. When you have a budget, you can analyze your life and know, does this thing really affect my life positively? Does it add value to my life? Is it something that's contributing to my financial growth and my financial objectives? Number 3 is paying off of all debts. Now, like I said, that the cost of living in Kenya is rising, and one of the areas that has been affected is with regards to loans. So banks are going to be charged a lot of money in terms of borrowing, and that charge will always be passed to the consumer. And I believe some of you have already received texts that's telling you about the excess duty that the banks will be charging on your loans. Now, the borrowers are going to suffer in this sense. So paying off your debts will make life less expensive for you, because these debts are becoming more and more expensive. I generally don't like debts, and this is one of the things we always have to do when you come for finance coaching, that we handle your debts. We make sure that we deal with your debts. So the best thing right now is to ensure that you pay off all your debts. Try as much as possible to ensure that debts are not consuming into your investments. If you have debts that are charged very high interest rates and very high fees in terms of administration and so on, then it is into any investment you may have. So if you have an investment of, let's say, 15% return on investment every year, but the debt is taking like 30% or so, then it beats the logic of having the investment. You would rather clear off the debt completely and then start afresh than have debts and have a competing investment that doesn't actually give you enough money. So that's extremely important. I do believe that you need to deal with your debts. It will give you reprieve and help you in focusing on what's important. What's important at this point is ensuring that your finances are aligned and that you are in a position to keep up with inflation and to keep up with the rising cost of living in the country. After you've done the budgeting, you've cut out the things you don't need, and then you have cleared your debts, you need to set up a financial plan. Financial plan is a very simple structure that will help you in achieving certain goals or in living the kind of life that you want. So in a setup or in a country whereby things are getting really expensive, you need to have a financial plan. You need to know, how much do I need to spend on a house? How much do I need to spend on food? How much do I need to spend on these particular things? So have a financial plan and stick to that plan, because it will guide you in getting to the next salary or the next month or the next income that you have. It basically offers a very clear guidance on what you need to do to achieve certain financial goals. So a financial plan is very important. It's basically the map I was talking about. It's the map that will take you to the destination you want to go to. And when you have that map, it means you can always find ways of passing through the obstacles like high taxes and stuff like that. So financial planning is important. And then you have to plan for the future, things like college. You see now parallel students are going to pay way more than they used to pay. So if you are not planning for college for your child, you just didn't think about it, already this is the time that you start wondering, okay, will this child go to college? Not everyone will be able to go through the joint admission board. So if you want your child to study, let's say, engineering, medicine, law, those courses that have now been doubled in fees, this is where financial planning helps. If you started early enough, then your money would have grown through an investment, and then you can use that money to pay school fee for your child. And usually when I'm coaching on finance, one of the things I talk about is college fund. You must have a college fund. This is where those things become handy. But when you're going to have a clear financial plan, you should have all these things spelled out. If you have children, what kind of college you want them to go to, in how many years, and that should be planned as early as possible. If you have any financial goals, let's say short-term financial goals, medium-term financial goals, long-term financial goals, that's the time to plan them in order and know when and how you want to achieve them. So a financial plan will basically guide everything you're doing with regards to your finances. It will basically give you a path to follow. Make sure that you stick to that financial plan. Create it and stick to it. Of course, you have to be flexible and make some changes as you go on, but you must have a financial plan. If you can't create one, of course, you know where to find me. I will not charge you so much, but I'll give you one of the best financial plans based on your situation, based on your circumstances. And then, of course, when you have that financial plan, you paid off all your debts, you have a budget, you have to become an investor. So becoming an investor is the next stage after setting up the financial plan. By becoming an investor, you will be beating inflation, and you will also be fighting to remain afloat in the future, not just now, but in the future, because this rise in living standard is not going to slow down or to stop at any point. It means in the next 10 years, things will be way more expensive. The currency will be way more weaker, and the purchasing power of the currency will be way lower. So what do? You become an investor and make your money work for you. Only way you can survive the future, the only way you can protect yourself against what can happen in the future is by becoming an investor. And as an investor, it means that even if it's just 100 shillings, if it's just 1,000 shillings, even if it's just 5,000 shillings, you have to start finding ways in which that money can work for you. There's so many videos on my channel that talk about this process and how to start investing. Watch those videos and find ideas that will work for you and that can help you multiply your money. You must ensure that you're building some kind of asset that in case life is going to continue getting harder, then you have some kind of cash flow or some kind of security in terms of assets. Becoming an investor is something you cannot avoid if you want to have financial security or financial freedom. Finally, and very important, is having additional sources of income. Right now, you have to rely on many sources of income for you to actually manage to beat inflation and to beat the rising cost of living. Low-income earners are going to be taxed much higher than they were taxed before. So the COVID relief tax is now gone, and then now low-income earners are going to be taxed way more than they were taxed before. It's an increase of almost 10%. So it means if you are relying on the same job, the same income to give you money, then you're going to have a problem. So you realize that pay as you earn has increased by almost 10%. Digital Services Act has brought up more taxes on the digital services. We have now the Finance Act that has brought up taxes with regards to loans, with regards to data and airtime. And then we have the normal inflation rates. So it means you have to think differently. It means you have to have additional sources of income. If you were having 50,000 a month and it was okay for you, it won't be okay now. The taxes on that particular amount of money has gone high. The VAT has gone higher. Inflation rate has eaten part of that money, the value of that money. And then you have college fees are rising. So you are in a corner. You have to come up with ways of making extra money, even if it's just 100 shillings. Start now, start small. So these are some of the ways you can beat the rising cost of living due to inflation, due to taxes being raised, and due to just normal economic situations that do happen and make things more expensive, make production more expensive, make manufacturing more expensive, and stuff like that. It's not only taxes and inflation rates. There are so many things that make life more expensive. So you have to cover yourself. You have to be sure that you're safe. Follow those simple steps, follow those simple rules, and you will survive the inflation and the high cost of living. Otherwise, guys, please subscribe to the channel, like this video if it's helpful, and share. Thank you, and see you next time.